Hey there, this is Katherine. I am going to be sharing a video today featuring this new Slimline set that I got from Diamond Press. This is on Autoship from HSN. They did have an option to purchase it, not on Autoship as well. So you may have picked this up, but I picked it up on Autoship, so I'm looking forward to the future shipments. But you get, in this one, you got 3 large dies. You got the outer slimline die, and then these pieces that go inside that cut out the images. And then there are also 4 word dies on here: sending hugs, smile, sweet friend, and here for you. And so I wanted to share, I'm going to make 4 cards with this set. And I'm excited because I love the slimlines, and they don't seem to be going anywhere. They seem to be here to stay, at least for the next bit of time. So let's go ahead and get started. So for this first one, I'm going to cut out of a bright pink cardstock. So I'm just going to show you how these slimline pieces work together. So you've got that outer frame, the scalloped edge. You can cut that just on its own, and I'm going to do that later in the video. But on this one, I wanted to show you how it cuts in your machine. I am going to use my Diamond Press machine, and in this set also you do get a long slimline folder. You can see mine has been well used. I've already done dozens of cuts with it, and for this set, and I had another set too with the bees that I've been using. So it's been well loved, and it's a little curved, but it's held up great. And so I just wanted to speak and show you, speak on how impressed I am with how well these dies cut. This is a very intricate die, and you can see this is just as it comes out. It cuts all of those pieces out, and it leaves very, very little that you have to kind of weed out. And this one's pretty intricate. The one that I'll do in a minute to your left, it's even more intricate, but it cuts like a dream. So I'm just super impressed with this machine. I've really, really enjoyed it, and it cuts these pieces out just beautifully. So what I'm going to do now is I cut a piece of paper smaller, piece of white cardstock. I'm going to glue this pink panel on top of it. You could cut the same panel, that scalloped edge, just run it through without the insert, and you can match those up. But I just went on and added, cut a smaller piece to glue this down. And so I've got that, and so that quickly you can make a slimline card with a beautiful decorative detail. It's very, very easy to use, and like I say, it cuts really, really well. So I've got this gold foil cardstock that I love. I've linked it in there. It's from Park Lane that I pick up at my local Joann store. I love it. It's very thick. It cuts beautifully, and I've just been super happy with it. So I'm taking a second to decide where I'm going to lay this smile word on there. I'm going to glue that down with my fine tip adhesive. This is Barely Arts glue that I use most of the time. I also have some of the art glitter, I think it's called. It's great too, but I just reach for the Barely Arts the most. I think if I had to choose between the two, I would choose Barely Arts just a bit. Has a little bit of an edge to me that it would win if I had to do a head-to-head on it. But they're both great, and I use both of them a lot. So I'm going to add some of this satin ribbon, this bright yellow satin ribbon from my craft stash. And then I'm going to glue my card onto the slimline panel. I made it myself, and it's on this ocean cardstock. And so you could stop there and have a really, really pretty card. It's so beautiful, that floral bouquet in the front. But I'm going to add a little bit of stickles, glitter glue. I think this is diamond, which is usually always on my craft table and one of my favorite ones to use. You could also use a color glittered glue if you had that, or Nuvo drops or something else like that. But I'm just going to add a little bit to the roses, and that'll be it for that. So here's this next panel, the more intricate one. I went ahead and glued that down to a yellow one, and I'm going to stamp on this panel instead of using one of those word dies. This Thinking of You comes from, I think it's the Exploding Box die set, which Diamond Press released earlier in March, or maybe it was in the February, but it's a recent release. But I'm going to take a second to stamp it. It's the first time I've used it, and just make sure I got a good impression. And then I'm going to add it to my card. I'm going to do it one more time just to make sure it's nice and dark. It looks pretty good the first impression, but since I'm using my stamping press, I can do it again. So I've got that laid out, and I will add this to another Slimline card base. And I'm going to glue just a little bit of the scallops that are on the edges. And I don't guess you really have to. That sticks pretty well if you got the rest of it adhered, but I just went on and did a little bit on the edges too. I'm going to clean up. I went off a little bit on some of the sides. I'm just going to wipe those off with my finger. But I'm going to add this to a darker blue cardstock. And I'm going to add a couple of epoxy dots. I had these lying around, and I thought I would pick a pink and add the kind of medium-sized one. And then I'm going to add a second one as well, and just to add a little bit more interest. And then I decided I wanted something extra on my card, and I was trying to decide, and I had this pretty purple cutout from another Diamond Press set. I cannot remember which one, I'm sorry to say, but it's been on my craft table for quite some time, and I thought, oh, it looks a lot like this card panel, and it with the lines and all, and I thought that would be a nice little bit of contrast that would be a complement to it and fill a little bit of my space down in the bottom left. So I added one more epoxy dot, and that's it on that card. On this third card, I just die cut into a piece of pink cardstock, and then I trimmed it down to 4 inches wide. I wanted to use this on an A2 card, just, the cards I make most of the time. And so I wanted to show that you could use this panel as an A2 card as well. So I've glued the gold cardstock behind it, and it has such a beautiful shine to it, and it looks so great in this little kind of bouquet. So I'm going to add that to a piece of patterned cardstock, and then I also have this sweet little bird that I stamped and I hand cut. It was very easy to hand cut. There's not a die for that one. It's Diamond Press as well. And I'm going to add some ribbon. You can see that I cut my sweet friend from a light green cardstock, and then I did take a moment to ink the edges around. I really wanted to use this green, but there's not a shadow die, which is fine. But sometimes with the shadow die, it will let you put it onto a similar cardstock, but you can kind of have a contrast. But anyway, so I wanted to make it a little bit darker is what I'm trying to say, so that it would pop off that blue and you would be able to see it. So I'm going to put some glue on there and adhere this down, that sweet friend. And I've got that sweet little bird up there. And then to finish it off, I'm just going to I have a little bit of these very small kind of gold toned gemstones, and I'm going to add those at the top, and that's it. So you can use these for an A2 as well. Don't limit yourself just to the Slimline. This final card, I am going to die cut it on a piece of white cardstock, and then I'm putting a piece of Bristol cardstock underneath it. I want to stencil through it, and I'm going to start with my greens and doing my flowers. I've got some distress ink here that I'm using. I'm just going to use a couple of shades of the green, and then I will start masking it off with some Post-it notes. That way I can hopefully keep the colors from running together. You could also use some finger daubers if you have those, or the blending brushes. I do have some, I just didn't have them handy today. but I'm going to go around and mask off and finish my green leaves all around my bouquet, and then going back and adding that second color. And once I finish with the leaves, then I will move to the center of my bouquet. But I'm just taking care to, it does take a couple of minutes. I bet it probably took, I would say real time, it was 5 to 6 minutes at least to do this, masking and moving my paper around and just taking my time. But it wasn't too much time, but I think it was worth it. I really enjoyed, even though it's a very intricate die, to be able to use it as a stencil was fun. So now I'm going to move on to I'm calling them roses. That's what they look like to me. They're so pretty. And I've got a red distress ink that I'm going to go around and use here. And I chose to do just one color for this because it was a pretty intense red. And so I didn't worry too much about how dark it was. I knew there'd be some shading differences. And just don't forget to cover up your leaves. I made it that far, and then I almost let it get away from me, but I realized I needed to cover those leaves before they got turned red. So I'm going to go back here on these little flowers that are left. They're just 3 of them, and there's kind of this tulip. I just did those all in a purple. One was a lighter one, and then I went back with a darker shade as well to finish those off. So this was a lot of fun to make your own stencil. And I've got this last one that I'm going to finish up, and then I'll go back to my tulips and finish that one off. And you'll see what we get. So I'm super happy with how it turned out. And then I'm going to layer that onto a piece of green cardstock. You can see I ran just the panel, the solid panel, and then I'm going to layer my stenciled piece on top. And you can see I got some cool kind of shading without too much effort. So I'm happy with how that turned out. I have this little piece of purple ribbon left from a roll that I've been trying to use up. And so I will just tie a simple knot and trim off those ends for this one. And then I will glue that to my card base. And this really, this was a pretty quick and easy card. But again, I think that stenciling just looks really, really fun. And it worked out okay, which is great. I don't think I got any smudges on it. That's what you always worry about when you use things like this. So then I'm going to finish up this card with sending hugs in the same color purple cardstock as the card base. And then off camera, I forgot to turn on the camera, I added some clear dots on there you can see on the corners just to finish that card off. And so now we have 4 cards. These are just a recap of what we made. I had a lot of fun, and if you have this set, I hope you'll pull it out and spend a few minutes with it. It's really, really beautiful. And I hope you'll like and subscribe and share. And I'll look forward to being back with you when my next auto ship comes on this set. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate your support. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you back here at my channel soon. Have a great day. Thanks.